It's time to share secrets and insights from fellow entrepreneurs. If you're looking to grow or start a business and you're a game changer, then keep listening to Avanti Entrepreneur for great advice from your host, Dave Mammano, America's Entrepreneur Coach.
Hey, Avanti Tribe, Dave Mammano here. Just want to thank our sponsor, Paychex. You know, Paychex, they make it simple for businesses of all sizes to pay and manage their team. They make payroll easy with employee pay options, including direct deposit, checks, pay cards, and so much more. Founded over 4 decades ago to relieve the complexity of running a business so that the owners can focus on what matters most. Above all else, and more than any other company, Paychex makes it simple. Visit AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com. Go to our partner link and check them out. They're offering you a free month of payroll just for giving them a shot as an Avanti Tribe member. Give them a shot, folks. They really help this podcast to be possible. Really appreciate Paychex. Now, enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to the Avanti Entrepreneur Podcast. I am Dave Mammano, your host. And we are here to help entrepreneurial achievers and business owners and leaders move forward so that they can reach their potential. I do this by interviewing the nation's best business movers and shakers. Today, I have on the show a great guy named Ken Pasch. Ken, welcome to the show.
Oh, David, thanks so much for having me and giving me this opportunity. I tell you, to put me on the same podcast as guys like Don Yeager, who probably everybody knows, but I had never heard of one of your guests, Peter Winnick, until I was listening to some of your podcasts. He was also phenomenal. So you really put some really high-class folks on. So I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been honored. I've had some incredible guests, and part of the benefit of the podcast for me is I am learning like crazy. And when I went to go start a podcast, I didn't. That wasn't in my plan. I just thought, I'm going to provide some great value for my listeners, meet some great people. But every week, it's like my university on podcasting, right? I'm just learning from great people like you. So no pressure, Ken, but I try to bring it to the next level every week. So I hope you can impress, and I'm sure you will. And that's why I asked you to be on the show. So Ken, I'm going to read your bio, and we're going to dig into the value that you can bring the Avanti entrepreneur family. How's that sound?
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. So Ken Pasch brings over 30 years experience in revolutionizing leader development with a broad range of organizations, including the U.S. military, Johnson & Johnson, the American College of Healthcare Executives. He is the founder of KiVisions or KiVisions? KiVisions, the leadership development company, which helps good people become great leaders. Ken also serves as faculty in the executive education at the Smeal College of Business at Penn State University. Pasch is a retired lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force. Thank you for your service, sir. Where he proudly served with distinction as both a flyer and a healthcare executive. These experiences form the basis of the tools he built and now uses to help other leaders get great results. If you would like greater productivity, decreased turnover, and the entire crew looking forward to Monday, get his new book, On Course, Become a Great Leader and Soar. Check them out at KiVisions.com or give Ken a call. And we're going to have all this information as far as contacting you in the show notes. We're going to have links to your websites, your email, your phone number, the whole works. And that'll be at AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com. So, Ken, once again, thank you for your service, U.S. Air Force. Tell us us and our listeners, what are you doing now specifically to help business owners and entrepreneurs like the Avanti Entrepreneur family? And tell us about your journey. How did you get to where you are today?
Well, David, and thank you for that intro. And when I read that, I wonder, who's he talking about? But it's
not
one
me.
of those things.
Not me. I've never flown a plane.
So what we do for people is we try to be as full service as possible. And one of the ways that we do that is we have a pretty broad connection to others that can do stuff that I just can't do, and the other people that work with me just can't do. And so we try to be as full service as possible. So we teach, we coach, and we consult, depending upon what the needs are of the people who come seek our help. And how I got here, I have the distinction of being one of the last people in this country to be drafted into the military.
Wow. One of the last people for, was it for Vietnam?
The longer story is I was 15 minutes away from Vietnam. I got a reprieve with 15 minutes left and I was on my way. And so I felt very fortunate because that was not on my bucket list.
Yeah. I don't know whose bucket list that was on. So kind of a blessing that you dodged that bullet, literally. Yeah.
But the great thing is it gave this poor boy from the projects an opportunity to do something he always wanted, fly.
Right.
And that was great. And so for those that are watching, like you said, you can see one of the airplanes that I have in the back wall and stuff. And I love aviation. But after my flying commitment was complete, I realized I had to go get a real job because it was very difficult for family. I was having a blast. It was very difficult for family. So I used my education. I went to school to become a healthcare executive, and that's what I decided to do. And I stayed in the Air Force to do that.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, and it was really cool. And
how has flying shaped who you are as a person, as a business owner, how you coach people? Because we talked, a couple times now before the podcast, and obviously, flying is a huge passion of yours. When I mentioned that I'm from upstate New York, you immediately went to talking about Glenn Curtis from Hammondsport, New York, which is at the tip of Keuka Lake. And in Glenn Curtis, for those of you that haven't heard of him, you should, because while the Wright brothers kind of got the spotlight for first in flight, they never really mastered the business model of the aviation business, where Glenn Curtis did. And Glenn really figured out how to, turn the whole thing, and he did very well in business and turned it into a very, very, very thriving industry that was really headquartered out of little Hammondsport, New York, which is a great place to visit now. Unfortunately, where he did all his business is not there anymore. But there's a lot of homage to him when you go there, which is great. But how did this whole thing come to shape you as a person?
Well, and if I can go back to that, because I think some of those stories you talk about it, why is this one of the best countries ever? And that story, the Glenn Curtis story, is that story. He came from nothing.
Yeah.
And yet he had that entrepreneurial mind, like you try to help people on your show develop and work with. And many people probably do just think of the Wright brothers, but the business became Curtis Wright because Glenn became an integral portion of that Wright brothers business. They got the fame. He had that knowledge. And so it's that kind of thing that you reach out. And that's one of the things that I think I help people understand is you probably, as an entrepreneur, you probably have some great talents, but do you have the talents to really operate with probably the most important resource for almost every business I've ever been involved with, either as a person responsible for running the business or a person responsible for coaching the business leaders? Most people don't have that time. They don't have the ability, and they don't have the system in place to help unlock, engage, and optimize that potential in their organization. And so where Glenn brought this business acumen to the Wright brothers, they had the ability to put this bird in the air, but to make it a business, they needed other people. And so that's what I try to help people do. I bill myself as the executive's partner. I'm not running your business. I'm helping you run your business better. So that's what I try to do. That's what I try to bring to the table. And because most people that we hire them for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's get the most out of them. And I'm not saying as a commodity, use them up and throw them away. Like we talked about earlier. Do they look forward to Monday? Because when they do, they're likely to do a lot more and a lot better to help you get where you want to go.
You want them to be speeding to work Monday morning, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting when you talk about, I mean, it became Curtis Wright, not Wright Curtis. So obviously they realized the value that Glenn Curtis, brought. Mm-hmm. And I think if you were to kind of make it into a metaphor for today's business people to understand, there's a lot of, founders of businesses, and I like to call them often the mad scientists, right? Like they invent the product,
That's right.
But they don't always have the business acumen to bring it to the next level.
Mm-mm.
And you know, and you really don't want them to. I mean, you want them to stick within their superpowers, which is probably, you know, being creative, being that that founder with the passion that, you know, attracts and connects people.
Yep.
You know, Walt Disney was a mad scientist, right? But
Yes,
he
he
had a
was.
brother named Roy,
Mm-hmm.
who was probably your equivalent, that said, "Okay, Walt, I think you're nuts, but we'll find a way to make this work," right? And it was a great 1-2 combination, right?
It really was.
So I like that. So so some things that that you do to help the quote unquote mad scientists to, you know, add some structure, process, science, so that they could not only have a business that makes sense and that it is you know, somewhat sane, but also allow them to bring it to the next level. Well, what are some of the things that you do when you first start working with an entrepreneur to help, quote unquote, stop the insanity and help them to get to the next level?
Well, if I can take just a couple of seconds to help people understand how I got here, it may help.
Sure.
Because I transitioned from flying to leading. I was educated and somewhat skilled in the ability to run a medical facility, but I wasn't skilled. And at that point, I really didn't have the ability to lead those people that were trying to help us run that medical facility. And so I tried books, courses, and workshops, and some of them were phenomenal. But when I got back to the organization, I didn't know how to put them together. How do I use that? What do I do with that? And I got very frustrated. And so it took some soul searching. And I had this crazy thought one night, talk about, you know, Roy thinking Waltz was a crazy thought. I had this crazy thought. I said, I wonder, could there be something similar in what it takes to get an aircraft or organization off the ground and to its desired destination? I had nothing to lose. I decided to test it out, and it worked. And then I just kept exploring it and putting pieces together in the steps. And so we built a model around the dynamics of flight. And if organizations do the same thing, they can take some of these pieces that, because I'm not, like Tony Robbins has this show now called I'm Not Your Guru. Yeah. I'm not. I'm just trying to help you get where you want to go. And we're going to use some of these other pieces that are awesome, whether that's, you know, personality-based stuff like DISC or Covey's 7 Habits or emotional intelligence. We're going to bring in some of those great pieces to help do what we have to do. But what's our framework? What steps do we take? Where do we go next? And that's what so many people don't have. And that's what we try to give them and build on to this process so that they can get where they want to go.
Excellent. Sounds exciting. So,
oh, it is.
So tell us how. Tell us, like, so we got a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience, and you know they've grown their business to a level, they got some traction, and you know they kind of ran out of gut instincts, right? And they're looking for help to break through that wall, to break through to the next level. So I'm coming to you with like, oh my God, okay. I built a business. I'm at $500,000, $600,000, maybe approaching $1 million. And I am frenetic. I'm working all the time. I'm not enjoying myself. I'm not being the entrepreneur that I dreamed of being. And, and frankly, this is not sustainable. So Ken, you know, help me. What are you going to do for me, Ken?
First thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look and see where you are as a leader, because that's the starting point. I mean, we have to figure out before we can know where we want to go, but we have to know where we are in order to develop a path to get to where we want to go. And so we're going to develop that understanding of where are you? What are your strengths? What are your things that you should work on and look at? And do you bring in others that are like Glenn Curtis? Do you bring a Glenn Curtis in to help your organization do this, that, or the other thing? And then we go to the model directly. And the first step in the model is you got to know where you want to go. And in our vernacular, you got to point the plane in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And that's what we work with people. Simon Sinek has a great book out called Start With Why. Mm-hmm. And why are we doing what we're doing? And what is it that we're trying to accomplish? What's that vision? Because, you know, without that vision, there's not much else there. I mean, because people then we're just floundering, trying to deal with day-to-day tasks, trying to get those done. But are we really accomplishing what we really set out to do? And that's what we really start with, is trying to figure out where they are and where they're headed. And then the next piece is, because I go into a lot of entrepreneurs and I say, okay, so where are you going? And they tell me, and I ask them, so if I asked your staff, what would they tell me?
Mm-hmm.
And most of them say, same thing. Want to guess how many people I go talk to that have that same understanding of the vision?
I would bet a whopping 0%.
I don't think it's that high.
Yeah, you got to get them all rowing in the same direction. Well,
Yeah.
you know, and if anybody, you know, knows the Bible, you talk about vision, Proverbs, right? Without vision, we perish, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and make sure that not only that, to your point, do we have a vision of where we want to be in 1, 3, 5 years, but have we communicated that vision effectively? So as Jim Collins would say, that we're all rowing in the same direction, right?
Oh, and I love that you've made that correction, because I've let Jim know that his bus analogy is just so wrong. As great a guy as he is, it is just so wrong, because there's only one driver on a bus.
Right.
In a crew-based airplane, every person on that crew has a very specific function. And if any member of that crew doesn't do their job, that plane is not going to accomplish its mission. It just can't. Correct. And so that's why I've told Jim he needs to get up with things. And
yeah. No, a lot of people don't like that bus thing. And I think it was Jim Collins or maybe Vern Harnish from EO and Gazelles, but just getting everybody rowing in the same direction, because to your point, oftentimes they're all out of sync and they're not knowing where we're going. Right. So get everybody in sync and rhythm, and they're all rowing at the same point. And another airplane analogy I've heard, and I don't know who said it, maybe it was Tony Robbins, but you know, I'm in Rochester, New York, and in fact, I just got back from San Diego. And if that airplane was just 1 degree off to the left or to the right, coming back from San Diego, I'm either going to end up in Delaware someplace or Maine, right? I mean, just a little 1 degree off. I'm not going to end up in Rochester. And I think it's a great metaphor for business. If you and the whole team are not like specifically very focused on that vision together, you're going to be 1% off, which could be a lot, correct?
Well, absolutely. And that's the kind of thing that we try to help people understand is, and how do you measure those kind of things? And how are you interested in measuring those kind of things? Because people need to know that this isn't a Monday morning kind of idea that just came to me over the weekend, and we'll probably do something else next week. And because those kind of things, and that's what happens oftentimes, because the entrepreneur themselves or the business leaders, entrepreneurs too. I think entrepreneurs can get as much value from your show as entrepreneurs, tell you the truth, David. But if we're not focused and stay on course, like competitor years, John Lee Dumas talks about all the time, that focus idea, follow one course until success. And if we're not on that course, things aren't going to work well. Yeah. And another thing that entrepreneurs typically have a hard time with is they hire people who are good leaders. And somebody taught me, and I wish I could give attribution to this, but I just can't think of it at the moment. But somebody taught me not that long ago that there's a difference between a team of leaders and a leadership team. And the biggest difference is, in a team of leaders, they're all leading, but so many of them are leading where they want to go, as opposed to where the organization is attempting to go. But a leadership team makes sure we're all going to that same place. Yeah. And so it's so vital. It's so important. And being 1 degree off, you're not going to get where you want to go.
Yeah. So my previous business was a national magazine for teenagers called Next Step, and then Next Step U magazine. And, we help teens with college, career, life planning. And I started it as a solo entrepreneur, had a local magazine here in Rochester, 10,000 copies, made a profit. Long story short, we franchised around the country. We were in every state. We were in 20,000 high schools. And I developed a team of 15 full-time employees, and then, of course, freelancers and writers and all the franchisees. And I am the mad scientist entrepreneur, right? Like, I'm that guy that drives people crazy because I have a new idea every week. And I'm giving everybody whiplash. Like, I'm raising my hand, guilty, right? And looking back, what I really should have done was found a number 2 that had the same culture mentality of me. Right. And at the same time was able to be the yin to my yang, bring that organizational, logistical process to what we did, because I look back and I had a great team, but I think I drove them a little crazy with my, like new idea. They ended up, we hired a consultant to kind of help sync things up. And one of the things he recommended was that I form a research and development committee, so that any new idea I had would go through that committee. And I wasn't on the committee, right? So if I had a new idea, it had to pass this committee. And then if it passed the committee, we would do it, right? And I started calling it Research and Destroy Committee, because no idea would pass, right? And I got frustrated. But they were right. Like I needed to complete the mountain that we were building before I started another mountain. And I can imagine that's something that you see a lot at, working with entrepreneurs, is they need to find that yin to their yang.
And if you've seen our logo, there's a compass rose in the front and a yin yang symbol in the back.
Oh, I see your shirt. It's right on your shirt now. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, absolutely. And that's a big reason why. I mean, it's deeper than that, but that's the great starting point. But David, if I could offer, please don't ever lose that, because it's people like you that get us to new places with those new ideas and those new constructs. So keep doing that kind of stuff, because that's where we get better. Yeah, because people are finding better ways, better mousetraps, so to speak. Yeah,
so. Yeah. Well, the quote by George Bernard Shaw about that the future belongs to people that are not realistic, right?
That's exactly right.
I hear all the
temper that.
Yeah, I hear all the time, David. You're not. You need a dose of reality. I'm like, I don't want it. I don't want it.
I love it.
Very good. So, Ken, I'd like to learn a little bit more about you too, because you said you were raised into projects. So tell us about that. Tell us about, how you were able to change your mindset to be so successful.
And I love that word that you use there, and we'll come to that too, because it's so critical to this leadership thing. All right. So I was born in Niagara Falls, New York.
Oh, get out. Oh, you told me that. That's where we first talked. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And Dad was the first person in his family to go to college, went to UB, University of Buffalo.
That's where I went.
Yeah. And he actually got to see UB play. His first time that he got to see them play football, it was against Penn State. So I brought him up here, took him to the game, and it was great. But anyway, he and Mom, they came from nothing. Mm-hmm. And they both had great families, but the families didn't have much. And so they were starting out on their own. And Dad went to school, so he had some debt. GI Bill didn't hurt getting them through school way back when, after World War II and all that. But so when they started having kids, we always thought that we ate a lot of pasta because we were Italian. We didn't realize it's because we were no money.
Right. Pasta fills you up and it's not too expensive, right?
That's exactly right.
Yep.
So it was one of those kind of experiences, but Dad and Mom worked really hard to make sure that we just continued to grow in our capabilities and have that opportunity to live a great life. And so I really thank them for what they did to make sure that we all had that opportunity. All 8 of us.
Yeah.
As it was.
Yeah. Now, were you born in Niagara Falls yourself? Like you were brought up there? Yeah.
Yeah, I was born in Niagara Falls. And so grew up around that area and moved closer to you actually for a while, moved to Auburn and, and just moved with Dad as Dad was growing up in his career. But then, as I got these other opportunities, Dad always gave me that understanding, be looking for opportunities that are going to help you advance to get to where you want to go and where you want to be. And so I had that built within inside me to be continuing to look for these opportunities. So when I had these opportunities to go to school, fortunately I was a Teamster and I had got a job loading and unloading trucks, and that gave me enough money to go to that small state school called Penn State. Yep. And so I kept looking for those opportunities, and then the military just took me to a whole other level, and all these experiences I got there and leading people, it was just a wonderful thing. So it was just that opportunity. And really the best thing that happened to me is I met this woman from Reading, PA, and we will celebrate our 43rd anniversary this June.
Awesome.
And so I've just been a very fortunate man, blessed with people who have helped support me and help educate me and help keep me in line sometimes too, as Kate would probably say.
Yeah.
But Yeah. So it was those kind of things that it just allowed me to grow from the projects to where I am now, where I'm out there working with people in all walks of life and all aspects of life, and just helping people just get that much better, and hopefully taking the country that much deeper into a better society.
Love the energy, and I want to talk to your wife just if she would say the same thing, that she's blessed, right?
Don't ask.
I bet she would. I bet she would. So I want to talk about Niagara Falls for a second, because it's funny you're saying that. So people that don't know the area, I mean, we have listeners all over the world. We're in 73 countries now. And people think of Niagara Falls and they think of, oh, this beautiful place where people honeymoon. Yeah, you're thinking of Niagara Falls, Canada.
Yeah.
For many different reasons, Niagara Falls, USA, really, I'm not even say second fiddle. I mean, it's more like 10th fiddle. They just never really got on the bandwagon of getting that whole successful city thing going on. But that being said, there's some great people that are coming from Niagara Falls. I just was at a conference in California where the keynote speaker was named Ellen Latham, and she is the founder of Orange Theory. And she gets on stage and she gives this great keynote talk. In the middle of it, she said, she's doing a slideshow, and she goes, I was brought up in a very cold place, and this is how my mother dressed me. And she goes, this is how Italian mothers dress their kids when there's like 3 feet of snow outside. And she had the whole snowsuit, the hood, the scarf wrapped around her face. And she goes, this is what kids look like in Niagara Falls, New York. And I was like, Niagara Falls, my God. And you might even know her. I got to find out her maiden name, but she's from Niagara Falls, and the founder of Orange Theory, which now has 1,000 franchises around the country, around the world. So yeah. So there's something in the water there. Maybe the water coming over the falls, it has some magic in there. But people who leave Niagara Falls apparently do very well.
Yeah, people who leave Niagara Falls. That's exactly right. Yeah, I'll have to, because I know of Orange Theory, but I didn't know that she was from Niagara Falls, so I'll have to do some research on that too.
Yeah. I mean, I'll even tell you her age because she said it in the keynote. She tells about it because she's 64. No, she's 60. I'm sorry, 62. Because what she said when she was 42, she was a personal trainer at a gym, and they let her go for various budget cutting reasons, something like that. And it was one of the worst days of her life. And she goes, fast forward 20 years later, 62, she reached 1,000 franchises of Orange Theory. And then she tells about her whole journey over the 20 years. And it's a fascinating story. It's one of the best speeches, one of the best people I've ever seen. And I'm going to have her in the podcast as well.
Awesome.
So you guys maybe are in the same class. I don't know your age, but maybe, I don't know, but I'll find out her last name for you.
Well,
her maiden name.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. She was just behind me.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right.
We'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. Very good. Very cool. Well, so thanks for sharing that story. And you obviously been a massively success story coming out of the projects. 8 kids, eating a lot of pasta, and I'm sure your parents, were very proud of you. So what is next for you? You're helping a lot of entrepreneurs. You've been doing this for a long time. Where are you going to go with this? Is this something you're going to be 85 and you're still helping entrepreneurs, and how so?
Well, let me, here's a story I can share from Kate, because as old as I am and reaching that full retirement age. And I asked Kate, I said, so what would you do if I did decide to retire? I had no plans to do that, but I just asked. I thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
Her instant response was, oh, I'd get a job. I couldn't stand your energy all day, every day.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. So you'll keep on working.
Until the big guy says, come on home.
Right.
I think I will. Because
if you love it, why would you retire, right?
That's exactly right. I'm not, I won't say I'm not working. I work my butt off. But in terms of, am I fulfilled? Am I happy? Am I healthy? What else do I want? I mean, I've got all that. And so why would I stop doing this when I know that I'm making a difference for people? It just doesn't make any sense. And so I love what I do. So no, I'm not
if you're getting enjoyment from it and getting energy from it, why would you stop? It's like, no, you love playing tennis. You turn 65. Why would you stop playing tennis? Same thing with your career. Now, some people hate their career and they're excited to retire. I've known people that, love their career, but then because they're 65, whatever, they retire and they're miserable or they die. right? I mean, literally, they kind of lose their zest for life, and the body and the mind has a way of saying, all right, we're going to check out a little bit early,
Yeah. That's not my plan.
Keep on doing it. You keep on going strong. So Ken, tell us a little bit about your book, because I want to promote it for you. It's called On Course, Become a Great Leader in Soar, of course, available at Amazon, etc. But tell us about the book. When you wrote it last year?
I did. And so it came out on Amazon about a year ago, and Barnes and Noble and all the others as well, obviously. But I open, not the foreword or the introduction, but the opening of the actual book itself. Chapter 1 starts with 5 questions. And I would recommend, and if you go on, you can see that on Amazon. I'm pretty sure you can get to those 5 questions. I think we have that first chapter up there free. So if you go on there, ask yourself, and it's easiest to do this from a collective perspective, but ask yourself if we as a society are on course based upon those 5 questions. Because if you can answer yes to each of those 5 questions, then you'd probably say, yeah, we probably are. But I venture guess most people are going to look at that and say, yeah, they're probably going to come back with no, with at least 3, maybe more of those questions. And the book is intended to help us, not just collectively, because then we got to narrow that down. It's easy to look at it collectively and say, yeah, the rest of society, they're not doing it. Then look at yourself and make a decision. Am I on course based on these same 5 questions? And if not, then continue to read the book, because the book is then going to start laying out this presentation of this epiphany that I had about the connection between flying and leading, and how people can get where they want to go by pulling in all these other sources and developing your vision, developing your mission, making sure you understand your values. And I said developing there, but you should develop an understanding of what are your values, because there's something that's not in the book, David. It's actually wasn't vetted well enough by the time we got there. Most people don't know, and why values is so important. Most people don't know the key differentiator between what we might call the leader role for people that are in positions of authority, because that's who I work with, what we effectively call bosses. Most people don't know the key difference between the leader role and all the other roles. And where all roles require great skill sets, you used a term before that is so vital, David. Leaders must adopt the proper mindsets. And if you don't have those mindsets, and that's where the key in the company name comes in, KiVision, what I think are the 2 most critical pieces of this whole thing called leading. Ki is a Japanese term. Many people may be more familiar with the Chinese derivation chi. The easiest way to boil down this very complex term is recognizing the impact I have on others. Whether I take that impact, or I take that action, or I don't take that action, I'm impacting others. And as a leader, just think of the magnitude of that impact if you don't have the proper mindsets. So the values are very critical in that. And then it takes you down through the rest of the steps that you walk through life as a leader, building as you go. I still read 20 some books a year, trying to figure out more about people and how they work and how they work best. And so that's really just a little bit of the book.
That's fantastic. And it's true. The mindset of the leader is so important, because that is what ripples, right?
That's right.
And, people, I told my kids that Adolf Hitler was a great leader.
He was.
They were like, what? I was like, well, look what he was able to do. He was able to convince thousands and thousands of people to do terrible things, right? So his mindset was absolutely terrible, and what he was doing was terrible, but somehow his leadership skills, he convinced all these people to do all these terrible things, right? So was he a good leader? Not what he did, but obviously his leadership skills worked, right? So how could you be a great leader, but instead do wonderful things that help people, inspire people, help people to be better with workplace culture and with the products and with the vendors and customers, employees, everything. I mean, that's John Maxwell said, great leaders actually produce more leaders, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's the intent. And one of the things I do in the book is because people look at this and they worry about something that you just said. Hitler he was very effective, wasn't he? And so I try to narrow it down for people to help them understand the type of leader that they want to become. Because if you're doing the kind of things Hitler's doing, you're effective.
Yeah.
But is that the legacy that you want? Or do you want to have something that's a little stronger than that, a little more positive on your impact?
Yeah.
And so I break it down into what I call true leaders, wannabe leaders, and false leaders. Hitler was a false leader.
Yeah.
That's the difference. He was still a leader.
Right.
And then you have these people that are kind of in between. They want the perks. They want the status. They want all this, but they don't want to do the work.
Yep. Yep. And
True
it is work. Yep.
It is work. And so I help people to try to become true leaders where they really are trying to move, not just themselves to where they want to go, but all the people on their crew, and get everybody in the same direction and to the same point, and with not necessarily the same rewards, because there's not the same inputs, but good rewards. And so that's what we got to do.
Fantastic. Well, maybe we could end it with this, Ken. You being Italian, you might appreciate the Sicilian phrase that the fish rots from the head down, right?
Yep.
And I also think conversely that if the fish head is healthy, there goes the rest of the organization as well too. So it's your choice. It's your choice. Are you going to be a healthy head or a rotten head, right?
It's your choice.
So Ken, thank you so much. Appreciate your insights and your time and all the good stuff you're doing for the world. Very much appreciated. If our listeners want to get in touch with you, and we'll have this in the show notes, but what are some of the best ways to reach you and find out more about you?
The easiest way to find out more about who we are and what we do is to just go to the website, and that's www.KiVisions.com. Ki, Japanese word, it's spelled K-I. Yeah. So it's KiVisions.com. Or just call. I don't have any problem with people just giving me a call, 814-353-4564.
Love it.
We can talk and we can do whatever we need. Can I give a shout out real quick, David?
Absolutely.
I want to thank our mutual friend, Stephen Wessner.
Oh, love Stephen Wessner. One of my favorite people ever.
Well, Stephen and I have a little bit of history together. We were stationed at the same Air Force base.
Oh, really? That's how you know him?
And no, I didn't know him at all. He was in a totally different, he was in the missile units, and I was in the flying. And so we never crossed paths. We just didn't, we were all busy with our own little thing. But yeah. Stephen and I were at Ellsworth Air Force Base out in Rapid City, South Dakota together.
Wow.
So
yeah. He's one of my best friends, and he helped me get started in the podcasting business. So, and that's how I found out about you. I heard you on his podcast.
Oh,
yeah.
He does a great job too. Yeah, both of you do. You both do a great job.
He's been on my podcast twice, and he tells a story how he had to go put out a fire in the nuclear generator or whatever it's called. I don't even know, but quite a story. If you want to listen to that, go to AvantiEntrepreneur.com and look up Stephen Wessner. He tells a great story about leadership while putting out a fire in a nuclear generator. So
no big deal.
No big deal. Yeah. He said he used the word holy bananas. David, did you really say holy bananas? I'm thinking it was a little stronger than that. He said, well, Dave, we'll call it holy bananas for now. So, Ken, thanks again. Really, really appreciate it. We do have to go, and I wish you continued success.
Thanks, David.
And thank you, Avanti listeners. Always appreciate you and your time. Make sure to check us out on the web for this recorded episode, tons more show notes. We have a bunch of information about our services. We have peer groups. We have masterminds. We have so many coaching services and online programs now for entrepreneurs. We're here to help you grow and learn and collaborate with other great entrepreneurs. AvantiEntrepreneur.com. Thanks again for listening. Have a great day and stay awesome.
Thank you for listening. Head over to AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com for show notes and more helpful advice from entrepreneurs like you. Continue to find your entrepreneurial rhythm at the Avanti Entrepreneur Podcast.